Good evening. Hello. It is 8 o'clock in the United Kingdom on Monday, the 13th of April, Easter Monday. And I'm here, and we've got Nikki Luna, the producer, director of Time of the Sixth Sun.
Hi,
we're also joined all the way from Alaska at 11 a.m. in the morning by White Eagle Medicine Woman. Lovely to have you with us, White Eagle.
Aloha, aloha. I just got back from Hawaii. It's good to be here.
So lovely to have you with us in these strange times that we're all in. You know, we're in the United Kingdom in stay at home, stay in place, that they call it in the United States. They call it lockdown here. This is almost week 3, which is I'm settling into this beautiful rhythm of just being slow and being peaceful and not going into the fear and spending time playing with my kids. And it's actually been quite a beautiful time just to stop and rest. How have you guys found it?
Well, we find it's actually, we designed this. So we have to stop saying that other people designed it. We designed it so that we could go into the new world, because the new world is not out there, it's in here. So, you know, this is just the stage in which we play upon the inner awakening process. And it's taken, we said, take me out of the movies and let me go into what's real. So we created it for ourselves. We don't have to get into, you know, whether it's staged, and, you know, we don't need it. Stage and
are we getting some?
It's my fault. Sorry, it's just because I'm just trying to multitask on 2 screens, and the other one started playing. I've stopped it now.
Okay, no problems. I had a little conversation with, just while we're waiting for people to come on and join us, I had a lovely conversation with a koala, our Havasupai elder, and he said, you know, isolate and social distancing. He said, they're such ugly words, lockdown. He said, I'm in sacred seclusion.
Oh, beautiful. And that is exactly, it's again, how are we, what are we feeding on? What are we saying this is? We just worked with our just amazing kahuna elder that we work with every year in Hawaii. And he's just one of my favorite people on the planet. He has this eloquence with his words to take the metaphysical experience and bring it to such joyful laughter every time with us. But he's calling it spiritual sensuality. And he has a full understanding of that. So, you know, maybe we'll pop in a few of the core Hawaiian principles that really, they understand heaven, you know, because they're true Adam and Eve, Kuhina, on the island of Kauai, which is where he's from, believe that they never left heaven.
Absolutely.
And then they decided at the very end, like every animal in the kingdom was already living in heaven except for the humans. They're the only ones that don't realize they're in heaven. So I'm sure you've heard Robbie Robinson and the Native American Ensemble with those crickets, you know, slowed down and sounding like a choir of angels. Everything else is in praise, and we're in neuroses. So that shift to where we actually are, and not in our imagination, but where we actually are, is the quantum leap we're in now. From the 5th hoop to the 6th hoop, to this time of the 6th sun, which is really moving into that oneness eye. Grandmothers say eyes to see and ears to hear. So that's what we're going to focus on. Like, what is the guardians at the gates that we are at right now to that jump?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So
wow, this is beautiful. Well, we have 483 people watching right now. So that's the most we've ever had to any one of our Facebook Lives. So welcome, every single one of you. Thank you for joining us this evening. And White Eagle, do you want to just open the space for us?
Yes, we, you know, in order to start anything that we are going to start from within, we always say ritual or a ceremony, and we're not doing ceremony right now. We're becoming ceremony. And that is the art of meditation, if you want to call it that in the East, is when we light a candle or we say a prayer with a drum, we are asking ourselves to take that attention out of the distractions and into presence. So let's do that together. Just going to light a little bit of sage for us. And be able to, which is also a really, really wonderful tool as we're doing cleansing and worrying about viruses or anything, is sage. puts negative ions in the air and cleans our entire space to start again each time. So as we do that, I'm going to open. I only use this on very, very special occasions. So and by the way, I'm in my wedding dress. This is how I got married. And I felt like this was the appropriate ceremonial dress for today. And I'll explain that as we unfold. But this candle was part of that. And only in those special occasions. It is the Whirling Rainbow candle. And the prophecies of the Whirling Rainbow, which are well known among the Hopi and the Navajo, of the uniting of nations, all colors of the rainbow coming together for the good of the whole. And as we move out of polarity, of facts and who's right and who's wrong, which is just the amplification of the old world trying to desperately hold on to us. So we light the candle of unity consciousness, but also from this place of there is always reconciliation. There's always a ground of reconciliation to the polarities between right doing and wrongdoing, as that expression goes, in that field of possibility, in that quantum realm, and we enter that now. And I'd like you to take a moment to place your hand, beautiful, on your heart. And I'm going to teach you the breath of eternal life as we do this prayer. For many, many years, the grandmothers said it's the breath work. And now we know that we need the breath work more than ever because the issue of COVID is the lungs. And that's where we hold grief or joy. And joy, one moment of joy, shatters the congestion of the lungs. And breath work is the only way for us to free the lungs. So we're going to breathe this beautiful breath. Actually, the core of it is from Hawaii. It's Ha or Hawaii or Aloha has the Ha breath. So I want you to focus very, very softly now on breathing from the back of the heart and out the front. Very effortlessly, no big breath, just ah. And the second breath, you're going to breathe as if you could breathe in from the front of your heart, out the back. And maybe you can't do it, but you can imagine it. Next breath, take a breath in from the left side of your heart and out the right side of your heart. Next, breathe in from the right side of your heart and out the left. Next, breathe as if you could breathe from the center of the earth all the way up and out the top of your head, right through the center of the heart. And your final breath, breathe from the top of the great central sun, your source, down through the center of the heart and out the feet. And while I'm saying this prayer, you can repeat that sequence. Back to front, front to back, left to right, right to left, bottom to top, and top to bottom. You might want to close your eyes and just really bring your full presence to the heart. Sacred ones, grandmothers, grandfathers, guardian spirits, ancient ones, all who walk with us in the sacred circle of the sisterhood and brotherhood of light. We come to you today as a child of light, in deep thanksgiving for the blessings of having a beautiful experience, for eyes to see and ears to hear the truth of our existence, purpose, deliverance, and awakening. Sacred ones, bless our elders, for they have come a long way and ushered as midwives as they move on into the spirit realms, a doorway that we may enter. Bless our children, who are the old ones returning to guide us in this awakening. And they have a long way yet to go. Help us to hold them in sacred space, in the freedom of sovereignty of their self and discovery. And Sacred One, bless all the women and men in this circle across this great mother as cells of nurturing the front line of our bloodlines, ushering in the time of the sixth sun as we move from the fifth hoop to the eye of oneness, to the ear of oneness. Help us to hold sacred each and every one, no matter where they stand, no matter if they're suffering, angry, blissful, asleep, sick, full of themselves, greedy, or planting the garden for us. We hold them all equally in this expanded light. Istana kotaiche, tana awa ai, dastana kotai. Ioma, ioma, kuana. Take one more deep breath in from the back of the heart and out the front, bringing that space fully present. In the sanctuary, as we take this time across our planet for inner sanctuary, dreaming the new dream, aligning to our own purpose. We use a different meaning as we enter this time. As the grandmothers say, eyes to hear and eyes to see and ears to hear, we hear 4 powerful things. A new definition of the word righteousness, which we're experiencing amongst many people, and to shift that word to its true meaning. The Hawaiians would call this word kinaole, being at the right place, at the right time, doing the right thing, for the right reason, for the right person, the first time. Right place, right time, right thought, right action, right person, righteousness. That's the meaning that is so imbued in Hawaiian culture as kina ole. And that is the wonderful gift we have just given ourselves of realignment. Kina ole. And so we take that inner sanctuary, and people say, is it going to go back to the way it was? No. Is it going to return to normal? No. Because you're changing. And you could take your finger, as our kahuna said, and you can point it up to the sun, and then to the moon, and then to the first planet of Mars, and all the exploration that has been part of this generation, the explosion of information and mysteries being solved. And now we're taking that finger and we're pointing it to this universe that is the most challenging, most exciting, and most uncharted wilderness. And I had my own personal experience. I showed you that, when I had my near-death experience earlier this year. And I'm just welcoming this to such a beautiful opportunity to reset. And it's not, Theo, you said slowing down. It's like, it's the real rhythm of the earth. And I know that, and you know that, how out of balance we have become with, doing too much and traveling too much and being exhausted. And exhaustion really stems from a lack of communion with the divine, because we're searching for it out there and we're exhausting ourselves in the hamster wheel. And so Mother said, please rest and then come into rhythm. So as well as righteousness, as the R's, right timing, right place, right person, right intention, as our guiding force of what's correct. Because I'm hearing so much about, that's fake news. Those are false facts. And everyone's fighting over that now. The difference between facts and truth is the journey from the outer to the inner. And we need to align with that truth within ourselves. And we're going to move into another era, ERA, on the planet. We've had so many cycles, and this has been sort of the pyramid culture of top down. And now we're going to circle culture, which we've been to before, but at a different level. And so in order to do that, we're going to come into that truth. And like we're sitting 400, 500, whatever today, we're clustering into the groups that are resonating in that. And that's all we need to do. The grandmother said, stop fighting what isn't. Resonate with what is. And so I share with you 4 more R words that get us there. But I want to just smile and look at my sister and brother first, because I love them madly. I was so thrilled to be part of this series, Time of the Sixth Sun. Please, if you haven't gotten it, it sets the tone for everything. This was an unbelievable midwifery between you and for my beautiful sister Luna, who we've traveled the journey across the world with Grandmother Drum. We knew we were almost seeding something before its time. And 11 years, in the making.
It's a long gestation.
And 20 countries and 20, years of traveling the world with this heartbeat going, listen, listen, listen. And we come into that resonance. So I just want to, share that moment with you, and we can move on. But, this is just so exciting what's happening, and, how much you were tuned into the pulse so long ago, and feeling it for us. And the grandmother's coming to me in 1999 about the vision of Grandmother Drum, and planting that seed. And they just wanted that sound to go on the biggest networks possible, and we did live H2O, as you know, and many, many big events.
Why don't we start with that, White Eagle? We met in Jerusalem, where you had taken the Grandmother Whirling rainbow drum. And do you want to explain maybe to the listeners we were etherically opening the Eastern Gate. Do you want to just explain a little bit about that?
Oh, that is just so powerful. There are 4 gates to the heart. We have a 4-chambered heart. And, if we ever decide, and I've talked to you before about maybe doing a shamanism series, these teachings are at the root of all the shamanic cultures across the world. And the gates are very, very important. The East Gate is our gate of courage. It's our gate of being authentic. So that's the fire gate. And of course, it's in Jerusalem at the fire zone. And that gate is moving us. It's the fierce courage to be compassionate. And it seems like that's like an oxymoron to use fierce and courage and compassion all together. But it takes a lot of courage and a lot of fierce strength to not participate in us and them.
Yeah.
It's super, 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 super. This is why I say you have plenty to do. What do you want to go outside for? Imagine what you get to do. And this was the inception of it energetically. We were standing at the East Gate in Jerusalem, which the Muslims had closed, during the time that it was prophesied that Jesus would come through on a donkey through that gate, the Messiah. Well, they didn't believe he was the Messiah, so they sealed that entrance to the old city with a wall, and then they put a graveyard in front of it, so nobody spiritually or otherwise was going to penetrate that. So we met on Mount of Olives that day.
It was said that he would come through the Eastern Gate with the Shekinah, the return of the divine feminine.
Exactly.
And we stood on the mountain.
You can see that as a mythos. If you believe in it literally, that's perfectly fine. It's also a mythos about the opening of this chamber of the heart, because without it, you can't enter the divine feminine. Because that's the unconditional mother love, the divine love that loves everyone, no matter what they've done, no matter what they continue to do. Now, it doesn't mean love with no boundaries, because that's not good parenting. That's like a big phase right now. And I'm just like, oh, really? We're going to have kids that have no idea about anybody else in life if they don't have love with boundaries. So this doesn't mean we still don't set boundaries for what we will and will not do, but the love does not get shattered. It doesn't get triggered into reaction. And that was the gate we were working on opening energetically for the planet when you and I met.
Yeah.
And so isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
We had such a profound ceremony there that day. And we had several events where Israelis and Palestinians came together in the Jerusalem hug, and we had some momentous things happening. I don't know if you were with us on the Sea of Galilee, but we actually had a guy threaten us at the Sea of Galilee during a ceremony there. Very big guy, tried to smash the drum. And, a few minutes later, everybody was scared. It triggered all the women because of the war stuff in Israel. They were completely triggered. We went into the Sea of Galilee with a crystal bowl with some water in it to resonate at 528 hertz. And we bathed everybody in the water. We did some sort of like Watsu. And there he was, this big guy. He had walked his horse into the water to cool his horse down. And all the women were kind of like looking over there. And he had his Crocs, plastic Crocs, tied to the end of the horse's mane. And so they were floating on the water. So flashback, right? The story of Christ walking on the water on the Sea of Galilee, right? So here we are in this incredible moment, 2009. And I look over and we're all holding hands in the water up to about our chest in water. And I reach out my hand completely open to him like this, like, come and join us. They all looked at me like I was crazy. And he came into this circle, joined our circle in silence. We didn't say a word of, you shouldn't have done that. Anything. He sat in our circle. We continued and we walked out of the water to move on with the rest of the work we were doing. And he walked away. About 20 minutes later, he came and we were in a talking circle at that point. And the women were going on about how upset they are and how much that wounded them. And, it was a lot of intensity going on. He comes in, sits down in an open space in the circle with a giant watermelon, like a 5-year-old boy, making his offering of reconciliation. And then when the stick came around, he took it and said, he apologized for what he did. Not a word we spoke about it. It was the love that we invited him back into the circle. It was a moment of transformation for them and for me, because this is stuff that my elders have modeled to me countless times. I know you've seen it too, Nikki, where they just blow your doors off and you're like, and so we work beyond the physical law when we open that gate of the heart. We move from physical law, you did this and you did that and you paid for this and I paid for that and that's my money and all of that, to spiritual law, which supersedes physical law and creates a new law in the physical, a new reality. And that's exactly where we are now. Exactly.
Yeah. I say it's a great metaphor for what's happening now.
It's tremendous, and I've just seen this time and time again. I had the same thing on the very first world tour in Australia, being challenged in front of the entire audience by a 20-year-old Aboriginal young man in full dress at the Wambian Caves north of Sydney. I had the elders there, the Pajar elders, and I had the park superintendent. And that was when the fires, remember the fires? Back then, they weren't letting anybody light fires because the Blue Mountains, which is north of Sydney, were burning. And we got told we were going to do this ceremony in a cave there. And I had my manager research that, and we got permission. We did all the right things, and we get there, and this young man comes out from the woods, and we're like in a park. We're not like out on tribal land, even though it's all tribal land, as we know. And he says, what are you doing bringing a sacred object from somewhere else to our land without permission? And the whole audience was so ready. I was in my full dress, very virgin, very inexperienced. I didn't know what the heck I was doing when I got channeled this to be done. I felt like I said to them over and over again, there are so many better people for this job. I did. I said to them, listen, there are like diplomats and people that, are eloquent and, are heads of tribes. And they said, we know. Yeah, we know. We're not calling the qualified, but we are qualifying the called.
I like that. I love that.
And that's been my motto, because, people do challenge me and people do challenge you. Like, what do you think you're doing? And it's like, I got this from Spirit to do. I didn't sign up for it, really, did I? And so I could have never imagined the 22 or so years I've had with my life when I totally surrendered to the grandmothers to use me for this mission. And so they confronted me there, and he started to say things to me, and I just looked at him, and my elders have always said, just speak the truth.
Speak the truth.
So I said, listen, I'm brand new to your land and your ways. My elders guided me to come here. I'm just a simple woman with love in her heart. And that broke the ice initially, but it kept going. Well, they won't let us do our ceremonies here anymore. And then I realized I was between the Park Service and the tribe. Like, what am I doing here? Like, I don't know what to do. And my mind didn't, because I was in the mind. I was in my personality. I was in my, this is what I grew up, and this is the family I grew up in, this is what I did, you know. I didn't ask for the grandparents to come. My own divine blueprint. We call it divine authority. So once that stepped in, I just said the truth, and he confronted the Park Service. So I went up to the park superintendent, who was this very big guy, had his arms folded, and he liked me because I had presented him with a gift along with the elders. And I said, listen, you know, I'm an indigenous woman coming to another indigenous land, and I need permission. And they need to welcome me in their traditional way. Is that going to work, you know, today? Because that's why we're all here. And he just said nothing for the longest time. Big pregnant silence. And I thought, okay, here we go. And he said, just this once. And then, as a proud peacock, Damien stood up in front of everyone, lit a fire in a grass area next to a sidewalk, okay? And started calling the spirits in to see if I had permission to go in. Okay. They took gum leaves like we do sage, and they put it over the fire, and everybody had to walk across the fire to be purified. And then he talked to the spirits. And at this point, the elders looked at him, and they were embarrassed that he had done this initially with the park, because they had a good relationship with the park. But when I confronted them and said, is this what you would like to see? They kind of sheepishly said yes. And it was this young one that was bold enough to challenge me and the park. So I said, sure, okay, teach us. Please teach us how we should be here. And then he gave a wonderful teaching, which comes right back to the East Gate teaching. He said, the fire to our people is our justice.
Wow.
Don't forget that. The fire to our people is our justice.
Remember that.
Now, think of Christ with the flame around his heart, right? Think of Mary with the flame around her heart. The awakened heart, that was the justice flame. So he was basically saying that you came into justice with me, and so the fire is now just. He gave us permission to go in. Everybody was so excited. You know, we thought it was over. And Damien was in the front with his didge like the Pied Piper. And we were carrying Grandmother Drum. Here she is, you know, 7 feet in diameter, over our heads into the entrance of what was called, Nikki, Theo, Victoria's Arch. It looked like a giant yoni. Okay. Just massive. That's a public cave system. We get to the edge of the cave, and I'm walking with the elders in the very back. And the 2 elders stop dead at the entrance. And the auntie says, I'm not going in there. We can't go in there. And I said, Auntie, did we not do something correct? You know, is there something we still need to do? She said, no, I'm not going in there. And I said, how come? They massacred our babies and they put them in there. I cannot go in that cave.
Wow.
I was blown out of yeah. And people are talking, the drum's going in there, and nobody knows because they're not hearing any of this. And the day before, I was presented with a medicine gift in a parade down the main streets of town with police escorts and all the elders. That's how I was welcomed to country. And I thought, oh my God, help me to be the person my dog thinks I am. I was like, what? And so at that moment, I had the baby in my arms. And I'll show you her because she's very, very poignant to this story. And that's why she always sits on the center of Grandmother Drum. This is her. Okay, do you see her? Mm-hmm. And she is given to me the day before this during the parade, which put chills up and down my spine, and I didn't know why. This represents all of the stolen generation of Aboriginal people. And they covered it with all the feathers of the birds of Australia. So this is what we call the Children's Fire Law. And she's now covered in all the flags of Australian Aboriginal tribes. So I had this in my arms as we were entering the cave when Auntie said she wasn't going in. I looked down at the baby and I looked at her and I said, that must be why we're here, Auntie. We must be here to go free those souls. And this is when you trust spirit. And the magic is so beyond your wildest imagination, because I had no idea what I was going to do when I got in that cave. Like, no idea at all. I just showed up every moment and let it unfold before me. And I tell that story because I live that way. And guess what? You get to live that way because you're taken away from planning, future projection, security, and live like every other animal on the planet who the birds wake up singing and they don't know where their next meal comes from. Everybody else is in praise but you. So let's join the party.
Very present with being kept.
And
We've got something like 25 minutes left, and there are so many people who are going to be asking questions, and I hadn't even started asking you questions.
Well, hold her here.
Let me ask a few and keep them brief, obviously, because of time. We might have to go over a little bit. But I think the real question on people's lips right now, and you talked a little bit about it before, White Eagle, but how, from your perception, what is being mirrored for us, for humanity, as we are sitting here in sacred seclusion? What is the virus teaching us right now?
Well, I think it has many lessons to teach us, not just one, but the main one is that we have chosen to reset and allow the planet to heal and come into realignment with the Garden of Eden. However you understand, that's just a term I'm using, not a religious principle. We are in the garden. We never fell until we decided to. And this is where we are again. We get to either still point our fingers at each other and still get more and more and more and more and more separated with our beliefs, or we create a world, and not everybody's going to choose it. You know, that was my dream, you know, like I'm going to do this grandmother drum and there'll be peace on earth. You know, that may never be, except that this dimension may not be about that. But you are. And that's the work that you are doing now. And that's the 4 R's that I wanted to mention earlier that I'll bring back. First is the ringing. We hear a ringing in the ear, we'll say, or that rings true for us. We have to find that ringing alignment. We have to find it. Are we doing our soul path, or are we just in a job that we haven't liked because of money? Are we supporting industries that are not earth resonant? Have we been given a mission and we don't have the courage to act on it? You know, these are the questions that we get to ask now and realign. That's that alignment. So the ringing is hearing the call. Grandmother's called, I picked up the phone. And they're saying, pick up the phone, you know. I'm sorry to leaving you a message on the answering machine. Pick up the phone and hear the calling, your purpose, your steps. Okay. And then the second one is getting into rhythm with that. And that has to do with finding other people that are in the same resonant frequency. It's not about changing the world. It's about changing you and clustering to that empowerment to create or acknowledge. You know, how many of you realize, as Harry said to us, that you're taking yourself to heaven? And that is the choice of which emotions and which thoughts you are feeding.
Yeah, very important.
The guardians of the gates and any temple, right, are the opposites. Now, you've got 2 sphinx or, you know, something guarding the gates. We are now in the guardians of the gates, and they're fierce. And they're protecting you from entering the oneness eye until you're responsible enough.
Yeah.
You've got to be able to stop talking about others. Stop getting into the play. I'm so guilty of it myself. You know, the us and them, the Trump, the this, the like, oh wow, you know, here we go, and martial law, and oh my God, and you know, we participate in that instead of thinking it's spiritually what's happening, not physically, because we're the creators. So we took this because we're getting a lot more power. I mean, whether you agree with 5G or not, that is a lot more power. You know, 240 volts in Australia versus 110 here in the US, different voltage, you know. And when you go off from that resonance, okay, then you fall from grace, and you fall big time right now. You know, we're falling and creating all sorts of dramas. So it's like, whoa, stop, go in and remanage what's happening here. So it's ringing, resonance, rhythm, and rapture. Those are the four. So as we start to hear the calling, then we come into our resonance. So I say it's, you know, people think, oh, we're going into expanded consciousness. I'm expanding my consciousness. No, you're just coming home. You know, there's no expansion except you just went inward and woke up to the truth. It's always there for you. Heaven is always there for you. You know, you have to just be holding the safety for its presence. Yeah. And I use the word safety in navigation because that is what creates the space. It's the same thing as we say, we can't do meditation because meditation is non-doing, right? So it's an oxymoron to say, I'm going to go do a meditation. But we get in a space and create, as we are here, the potential for the ground to be laid for it to happen. We can't make that happen because then it's grabbing again. We're going after it. It's already there. We can't grab it. We just have to acknowledge it. Yeah. So it's acknowledging that heaven's already here. The sixth sun is here. We're in heaven. And you're going, really? This is heaven? Well, it is to me. Everything in our work right now is flowing perfectly, financially and otherwise. We're in, you know, stores are closed here and all sorts of things, same as you guys. Nothing's changed. In fact, it's only gotten more flow for us. Why? Because we're in exactly where we're supposed to be, listening very, very closely, every moment. I'm not talking once a day. I'm talking every split second. Before I do that, am I supposed to do that right now? I know that seems obsessive, but that's how much we need to. And how I learned that was, as you know, I don't know if you want to call it, I died, 6 months ago.
Can we, before we go on,
you're all dying, so it's just another story. But it was a wake up for me, and I realized that everything that I had to decide in every split second was about my life, either staying here or not staying here. Either one, it would have been fine, but I have responsibilities to complete because they're all beautiful worlds. So, but I agreed to that, and I knew that I had to listen so sharply when my blood pressure was 240 over 120. And the only thing, they couldn't do anything for me except for the breath I taught you. That saved my life. So it was listening and following perfectly. So get into resonance with yourself. It's your resonant frequency. This is the Dalai Lama has a chant master that can either shatter you with vibrating your sound. So we all have a base resonant frequency. That is our essence. All we have to do is to be with it. And then as we're being and not doing, then we can bring that presence to the little things of doing. But not too much yet, because we don't want to go unconscious again. And that meditation, that presence now begins to be infused in activity. That I'm always in that center, even when I am busier. Well, that takes a little bit more mana. And so we have to exercise the meditation time and the inner time to get that quantum field built. Yes, it's a field. It's an energetic field in our energy body. And this is what shamans all over the world spend time doing, is building that field.
Yeah.
And they're sovereign to that field. Everybody's worried about martial law. You're sovereign to that field. That's what you're sovereign to. That communion, that companionship, as Harry Yohani Jim says, with the divine. And of course you're going to have tests. Of course you're going to have tests. Did you think healing is supposed to be comfortable? Then I have to educate you. Healing is not comfortable. It's taking you always outside your comfort zone. And outside your comfort zone is the divine. Inside your comfort zone is as Harry says, is the franchise of personality. Yeah. And ego. It's like what I'm comfortable with. Healing takes place when we're asked to move outside of that. And this is a global party, everybody. This is like, we didn't decide to do this like one-on-one and just in Germany and not in Israel. We're all doing the party together. This has to be the new earth. Like, what else could there be?
White Eagle, I have 10 minutes left. Theo, stop. Theo, it's amazing. Your stories, I can listen to them for hours, but I just want to get in a few questions that people have been asking. We've got loads and loads of people on there.
We actually haven't had that many questions coming in because everybody's been raptured with what White Eagle's saying. I mean, Mike put this question up here. Could we have a little on White Eagle's background, childhood, religious upbringing? What sparked her journey to where she is now? Briefly, in brackets.
I was brought up Irish, Italian, I have Turkish, I have Native American, I'm like a mutt. I was raised Catholic. I had an incest story that then catapulted me into my healing in my 20s. I was a mountaineer. I climbed all the highest peaks in the world before I was 20. I was the youngest woman up Denali. I came to Alaska to climb Denali and to start a wilderness school, which I did for 20 years. I've been involved in shamanism for 30 years, working with elders across the world. My ex-partner was an Aleut man. We did elders gatherings when the Bering Sea was crashing. Oh, I could go on. That's many, many things. We all have great stories, so not just me.
Yeah.
Would you tell me, because I'm fascinated and I don't know the story, about how the incredible drum that is sitting behind you came about?
Well, like all of us, we get pieces of a puzzle. We get dreams, and then we get, somebody giving us a book, and all these things happening. Well, I had recurring dreams. I'm a very lucid dreamer with the grandmothers of different nations. And mostly they were teaching me through vibration. I would be on like a massage table and they would be beaming frequencies at me and I could hear them like a hearing test. And I'd be laying there and I go, that's a lot, and they go, you're going to have to get used to that. And I didn't know what all that meant. And then the drum began to appear in the dreams and said that this would be the frequency that I would be building. And I was a lover of drums. I've been, into drums since I was a child. I made my first hand drum like when I was 19 or so. But I was, very into, you name it, whether it was Santana's drummer or the Beatles drummer or whoever. But the only one that was drumming that was female at that time was, guess who? Karen Carpenter on the Ed Sullivan Show in the long dress. I was like, oh, I can play the drum set. So then I reconnected to the tribal drum. And then, that was just beautiful. But this was actually shown as it was. Like I didn't make that shape or anything. And there was a series of synchronicities that happened that this is actually a South American style called a kuldrun among the Mapuche tribe. And I wound up receiving the elders here and then finding out they handed me a very small replica as a gift in that conference that I just mentioned to you. And that was just when I had the dreams. And that little baby drum was presented to me. And that's it there. And I kept thinking, because I was in charge of that gathering with my partner, that they wanted me to pass it to an Alaskan elder, like a Yupik elder. We had amazing elders. And she was Spanish speaking and, handed it to me. And I thought, okay. So I went and presented it to the best Yupik elder I could find. And she looked at me like, no. And then I presented it to the female Yupik elder, which you all know, Rita Blumenstein. And they again said no, and she just pushed it. This is for you. And it wasn't until a couple of weeks later on my altar that I realized that was Grandmother Drum in miniature. And it was a long journey to 11-11-11 when we were in Peru, and we wound up doing the gate with the Mapuche of the 11-11 gate with all of the South American and Central American elders, North American elders. And that was another unbelievable synchronicity that happened to close the gate of the uniting of the Americas, the prophecy. Yeah. And in Lima, I met the woman that has the largest North American drum in South America. So those drums sat side by side for the first time.
Oh, wow.
And they were the unity of that prophecy. Now that prophecy has come together. That's what they were all closing that gate for. And we know that 11-11-11 was at the Saxia woman sacred site, which is the temple of the head of the puma, which is the middle world. So there's the condor, the upper, the snake, the lower. So we knew that they were saying it's happened in this world. So that was that gathering. You can YouTube and watch all the videos from that gathering. That just was an amazing.
So I've sat on the ground, laying on the ground with my back against the drum when it's being played by 20 people. It is the most awesome experience. Can you explain what's inside? You've got how many crystals do you have embedded in that? I mean, big.
Well, it's embedded with 200 clear and rose quartz crystal. Yep. In the shape of the Celtic. Well, you see it right here on my band, the triple spiral. Yep. I wear my different cultural bands for all my heritage. And that symbol, of course, if you drew that in 3D, that would be, the torus field, basically. And so that is embedded in the bowl. You can watch Grandmother Drum Awakening the Global Heart online now, free. It's called Culture Unplugged, if you want to see the video movie that won our award. And we built that between layer 2 and layer 3. And so that activates the Merkaba. And there's a small crystal skull, a replica, in the very, very center of Grandmother. Many people know who Len Horowitz is and the project that we did with Live H2O. They found, which again, I didn't know because I was just building this from channeled information with a guy that built dog sleds. So that's what we did with volunteers. And the frequency that's coming out, they measured now for the World Sound Healing Conference in San Francisco that we opened for, and it's 528. Comes out of Grandmother Drum. Mm-hmm. And then 88.1, which is the frequency they've been light at. So we've had if you put in Grandmother Drum, Sea of Galilee, you'll see the star tetrahedron forming over the drum in vibration and imagery. We didn't know it till after we left there because the guy that was filming had his hand up with the tripod up like this. He didn't even know if he captured us. You can see the matrix. Mm-hmm.
Beautiful.
Wow, I'll look these up and I'll add these links.
Contact and Richard Dreyfuss in Close Encounters. That's been my touring with Grandmother Drum.
What did you say, Taya?
I said I'll look these up and I'll add them to the chat so that people can add them to the list.
Yeah, see those links. Beautiful.
Yeah.
So.
Well, we are going to hear from the grandmothers coming up. I go into full trance when I channel them because they've been wanting to talk to everybody about this directly. So, people can, Facebook me about it. It's going to happen this coming Sunday. Mm-hmm. And they're going to speak more directly to everyone.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
You also, just to give you a heads up, you're doing a channeling on the 18th of April, where you bring in the ancestors and the grandmothers and the grandfathers. Do you want to just tell people about that briefly?
Yeah, that's what I was just mentioning. And they have a way with everyone, and they will give direct guidance, especially to the early registrants. Usually it's a 2-hour channeling. It will go live and then it will be recorded afterwards for people that can't make the live call. And the first usually 15 or 20 get a question answered so directly by them, and they are profound in the way that they teach. It's, who I work for, basically. It's my board of directors, as I call them, for the Whirling Rainbow.
Beautiful.
And they also channeled this new method that I think I've been mentioning to you, the crystal skull method, which is an activation of the beams of light in the pineal gland, and then making sure the number one thing is that the pineal and the heart are fully connected. And then we activate the whole luminous. So this is a new method. It kind of takes a quantum leap as a hands-on energetic method, and we're having amazing results. We have 300 case studies already showing 50% to 56% in every area of life has improved after one session of it. So we're training, certifying people in that now. So people can, just go to our website and click under the shamanic healing training. And everybody's asking me that next fall, because that's the earliest I could do it, I would do a shamanism series to help people who want to really use the teachings and the practices, because every single thing I'm telling you about has breath work, has initiatory work.
We were talking about that and maybe bringing that onto this channel as well. Beautiful.
Exactly. Yeah. There is a very specific breath work for the releasing of the lungs. And that's, comes from the Kira shamans of the Andes and the Hawaiians. So we can, really pull in this knowledge that's there for us. And the grandmothers just keep giving us like the synthesis of all of it, you know, and that's why I love them. They're just, kind of bringing the best of all of it to give us the preparation steps. And again, just preparing the soil for our blossoming that's happening now.
So Shabnam here is asking, how do we access the live channelings? Would they go to your website for that, to access
that?
Yes,
there is a link in our website for my sessions. And if you open that up, it says group channeling, and just click on that link. And that's the next one coming, and that's the 18th. And then you can sign up there, and then you'll get the call-in details and things like that. Mm-hmm.
Is that on the Whirling Rainbow?
That will be recorded for those people. We haven't really thought about whether we're going to make that live afterwards for anybody else yet. We haven't decided that yet, but yeah.
So Theo, you're going to put that up there, the White Eagle's website.
I'm going to find it. Yeah, I'm just looking for it right now.
Yeah, just look under healing sessions on our website, and then open that landing page.
Do you want to say what your website is, White Eagle?
www.whirlingrainbow.com. And we have probably 17 or 20 Facebook pages, so you'll find me somewhere.
Yes, it's a very, very comprehensive, fascinating site. Lots of information.
It has all our history. You can see all the videos on our YouTube channel from tours, and I want to say hello to those people, because all of our tour operators and people that hosted this medicine work all through Europe, Denmark, Germany, Austria, just so many places, Israel, Egypt, Central and South America, all over the United States and Canada, all my family, my aloha to you, and all my new family. We're all family. This is the issue that we have to, and the one line that came through from the grandmothers on the last channeling, it's saying someone had to discipline the children.
Wow.
That was their line.
I love that.
White Eagle, we've had a few people have said they understood the ringing, they understood resonance, they understood rhythm, but could you go into a little bit more detail about rapture, please?
Rapture is when we have already done all of that. Then the natural thing is we merge with the divine. We just merge, because that split is the only thing. You ever had the experience that you saw things before they happened, or you're bowling? This is the one that Harry goes. You're bowling, and before you release the ball, you're going to get a strike, and the ball's going down. You already see the strike. He talks about this moment, and he talks about that surfing is a religion, because people will go out for 12 hours, and if they get one ride, that's unbelievable, right? Mm-hmm. It's God, because that's the moment when nothing is happening and everything in the universe happens at once. That's the near-death experience, right? And that's the moment when our divinity and our human self is fully unified in full companionship, and that's rapture.
It's extraordinary to have experienced that also. as you were going through your near-death process. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that? Because it is such an extraordinary story, and many people who love you dearly accompanied you and were very present on your journey as you were being operated on.
In fact, they were the ground for me, you know. I had a very small basal cell lesion from too much sun, especially Israel. I never would put anything on, and I'm redheaded. And it just was this little tiny dot for many years, and then it grew a little bit. And I did every alternative treatment, dealt with like past life stuff that it was about, like did my work, you know, and it just would go. I did Amazon pastings and la, 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 la. And it would kept coming back. So I was like, what else hasn't I done? What else you did? And finally at the, you know, kind of the last step, I said, grandmothers, I've done everything you've asked me. I need an answer in an hour. Like, I can't keep doing all this. I have work to do, you know. I went to town, bumped into a woman at the post office. Within 40 minutes, she told me about a person I needed to go see in Western medicine. And I was like, oh, no. And it was great because there's my ego, right? So I had to look at that and say, drop the story. You asked and you received.
Yeah.
So I followed that trail, and nobody in Alaska, because it was so close to my eye, could deal with it. It had grown, you know, into my eye socket. They flew me to Seattle. I got shown by the surgeon that it was 3 or 4 or 5 times the size that I thought it was under my skin. It was this big, basically.
Wow.
Okay. So they were going to take that much space out. And I was like, oh my God. Like, oh my God. So I thought that was going to be my worst day in my life, you know, and I had to do that in the chair with being numbed, because Mohs surgery, they slice it, put it under the microscope, make sure it's all the roots are out. And I had to be there because they had to do 3 different rounds. So I was there for 8 hours in the chair with 100 needles into my eye and my face. And yeah.
Wow.
So anyway, I thought I had already done hell, and that the next morning they're going to rebuild my face and with an eye and nose surgeon. I come out of that surgery, open my eyes in 240 blood pressure, projectile vomiting, and my brain clicking like a camera and everything moving like, you know, like this. And they had no idea, you know, what was going on. They gave me nitroglycerin, you know, like candy. And, you know, I was just, and Michaela looked at me, my wife looked at me and said, Ishtaba, the breath I just taught you. Wake up, you know, wake up. And, you know, it was 86% oxygen, sucking oxygen in the drama, right? And they tried everything. It wasn't working. The only thing I could do to get my blood pressure down was Ishtaba. So the really shorter version of this story is I wound up having a super rare tumor on my adrenal gland that was the same size as my left eye. And that was why it wouldn't heal. They're actually on the same meridian.
Wow.
And I had toured the world and extremely taxed my adrenal glands, like to the max. But it's super rare, 2 in 1 million. Everybody else, when I had other situations where my heart was doing that, I took myself into doctors and nobody knew why. So I was very frightened to go under, because the last time I had a similar experience and nobody knew. And I ended in a perfect storm, because this hospital was the hospital for 5 states of the West Coast for this exact rare thing.
Wow.
But what is the most important part of this? And by the way, this is a new face. My nose is
incredible.
My nose is from my forehead, and my eye socket and my eyelid is, that's why it doesn't open all the way yet. It's still in the works. It's only been like 5 months now. And they can't believe it because there's no scars. And you know, they're like, okay. Because they said to me, we do a perfect job. They were these gorgeous Indian men. I was like, oh my God. And they were just incredible. But, you know, most people, you know, they have a little thing and then they get it done immediately. Well, mine was under the skin and not noticeable. So they said to me, we don't know how we're going to do your face. Like, we can't promise it's going to be perfect because it's a lot. And it's just, you know, this was sliced all the way across and lifted like that. So that scar there is actually not my wrinkle mark. It's the actual scar, but they just tuck it in there. Like, it's amazing. But that's the least part of the story. The story is I woke up. That's the story. And think about what's going on in the world. I was in the exact story. It was my lungs, right? I couldn't breathe. It was in the frequency of that vibration. They cathetered my heart. My heart had no blockages, because that was like my biggest ego issue, is if it was my heart after touring the world with the heartbeat. Right. That was like the ultimate humiliation, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, no, I'm not doing that test. It's not my heart, And so finally I surrendered because I was dying enough. And they said, it's perfect. And it was on a screen like this big. Boom, 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 boom. And I was like, wow. I thought I had just met the Divine Mother. I was just in utter awe. And I looked at them and said, son, you had a good heart. And so when this happened, I said, I'm fully responsible for that schedule I did around the world. That I did. I could say that. And you couldn't be hard. I did that schedule. And I'm looking at you two saying, you do that schedule too. And it's time to say, that's done. It's not resonant with, here we are trying to get people into natural rhythm and we're burning ourselves out. So that was just a fabulous one for White Eagle, scripted just for her. And I woke up the third day because first they had me having it on my pancreas and then it was my colon. And, my wife's like, oh my gosh, she's dying. And then, it was just like, the Hollywood drama. And we sculpt everything we see. We are director. We are the starring actor, everything. And I was like, I'm either a victim or I'm going to be the heroine. I'm going to be Wonder Woman in this hospital, So 21 days, that's what I call it. The 21 days that changed my life. So you say, are you going to return to normal? You might see White Eagle Medicine and go, I know her from back then. She died. And that's what's going on out there right now. That you is dying. It's over. But what's coming?
For a lot of people, it is
much more fabulous that you can possibly. It's so juicy. It's what you always wanted. So don't turn your head away and run out the door.
You had an amazing list, and if I were to run through them, and I don't know if you want to share this with people, maybe put it up as something as a takeaway, but there were 20 things that you learned from your near-death experience, and I'm just going to read from this screen. To follow your gut, and you have something to say about each of these things. Follow your gut, ask for help, breathe, be here now, be yourself, simplify everything, transcend drama, laugh more, cherish family and friends, change the pace, which you were just talking about, become more passionate and less driven, have an attitude of gratitude, be total, become more prayerful, allow breakdowns to become breakthroughs, allow breakdowns to breakthroughs, learn through adversity, change mind and matter, ally suffering, face death, and live your purpose. That's an amazing list. And
we could go into that, but that's a whole other 2 hours. But,
Is there something you'd like to share with the group?
Absolutely. And I put it on a nice backdrop with our Crystal Skull Method logo in the background there. So if you have it, or I can send it, put it up myself, whatever. Yeah.
Or, well, if it's on your page, people can go to your page and get it. And I'll see if we can put a link to it as well on our Facebook page for you.
And I can also send you the link. It's a free thing that's on our website. It's both in audio and in PDF. 10 messages from your soul. So if you feel like, I don't know that connection, you don't have that connection. It's like, yes, you do. You just don't, you're not paying attention to it. So it's 10 ways that your soul speaks to you every day. And I made it go out to the world. And so they can ask me, I'll send you the link and they can sign up to grab it. And it just helps you to kind of pay more attention, because it's not about anything new. It's about paying attention and what we're paying attention to.
It's so simple. And that's what I love about your list. They're so simple. I use it as a daily Bible. I love it. Theo, you've been really quiet throughout this. So
I've loved just listening, and you've got to remember, while you two are talking, I'm looking at all the technical stuff and seeing the comments coming in and watching it on 3 different screens. So it's been quite nice for me that I could just be more of a spectator this evening than a participant. But you're getting so many lovely messages coming through from people to say, thank you, and wow, this is awesome, and thank you with gratitude. I'm completely inspired. we're live in our Facebook group where there's now currently 46, well, were 46 people watching. We're live on the Facebook page as well, which has got 428. But at peak, we were almost 700 people watching across the two pages. So that's fantastic.
That's your beautiful work, and I want to make comment to you because, you know, the birthing of this, which we're going to maybe talk about on another live, is the birthing of the divine feminine. This is the man that supports. He's there holding the hearth for us, and this is the humility of sweetness that I love about you, and how much you've supported Nikki through this process, and made the technical part of this work, because, you know, that's a whole nother level of love and devotion to use the technology to serve this awakening. And that's the highest order we can ask from this, instead of scrolling all the negativity that's on these feeds nowadays, and that you're bringing this freshness to us. So I love you. I hope we're going to get back over to Europe. They've been talking about for the last few years of bringing us back over. And so, you know, who knows what's going to happen. We have some stirring happening in Sweden and in the UK and stuff. So who knows, you know, what the next chapter is for all of us. But we're still going to do it live from the living room. You know, I can play grandmother drum next time for you, you know, or give you the really good quality recording that we won an award for, so you can journey with her yourself, you know.
Wow, we would love that. And thank you for those words. I take them on board, and I appreciate it. Really, thank you.
And your family, Theo, as well. You know, your family, your wife, your kids. There are so many people who back us up and support us in so many ways. Our lovely Kate, who isn't on here, but I think she's probably in our list, who has been amazing. I mean, really, our help desk was inundated, and she beautifully, from the heart, dealt with everyone for months and months now. So a big thank you to Kate.
Well, and I want to redefine for all of us a word that has a completely different meaning right now. And for all of us that are on our soul path, and we have been in the service mode for a long time, we need to rest a little bit ourselves. We have been pulling the front line of moving global energy, and we need to balance ourselves. And that was my big lesson in balance yourself. You're talking about rhythm with Mother Earth, and you're out of rhythm. So we have to all take accountability in the West for our adrenaline junkie lifestyles, and stop it. And those that have been hiding out for a long time, they need a little juice. Let's go, girls and boys, you're on. You know, we're passing the baton right now.
I'm going to say that.
I called it something, and I don't want to offend anyone when I say this. I've called it the Me Too movement, but that means me. I count to keep balance along with serving everybody else to awaken and move. I'm awakening, and that awakening has to be true. Otherwise, what I'm holding is not the ground. So it's like everyone has to take accountability. All your great spiritual leaders, you finding some of them, as the transparency of the blue flame is working, are, you know, incesting, you know, young women or whatever. All these people are coming out of the closet that you esteemed. So forget about the gurus out there, or Nikki or Theo or me or anybody, and you're the guru. You know, you've got to do that work, and you will then be able to know what is BS and what is real, because you'll have that resonance going. So I call it the Me Too, that I have to take care of me. That's my version of Me Too. It's much more positive, although I'm totally supportive of coming out, you know, absolutely, absolutely, on every level, and healing stuff that's been, but now the frequency's there for us to do that. It's so, there's so much light. That's the only reason you can deal with the dark. You don't grope around for the door handle when the light's on, you know? So once the light's, oh, there we are, you know, and then we can deal with that stuff.
Can I ask you
back in to that east gate of the fire?
Yeah.
Transmute it.
Can I ask you, are we okay going over a little bit? Maybe if you do 15 more minutes.
Yeah, I'm not backing my schedule anymore.
Yeah.
So
I mean, it's so great having you on, and you know how you opened was just so. I feel so honoured that you've lit that candle for us here and what it means to you. Thank you. And your beautiful drum in the background.
Let's get some questions here. So, will this be available to watch in replay? I'm having that question loads and loads from people that have come in late. Yes is the answer. Every Facebook Live that we do, both in the page and on the group, are always there. You just have to click to the video section and you'll be able to see them there. So that's to answer that question. But
okay, so you have to click into the video section. Okay, just so I remember.
Has specific questions for White Eagle. If you want to type them into the comments now, then we will we'll be able to address some of those questions. You're getting so much love in here, so many loves and likes, and thank you. And Stephanie wants to know where she can get a candle like yours.
Love-in. We're in the love-in. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
From long ago. We're dating ourselves now.
Stephanie says, where can I get a candle like that?
Well, I'm not sure where this one came from because it was a gift, but I think my sister in Soldotna, it's called Pie Wackets. You can find it online. I think she has them. She's a great sister, keeping the beat on our peninsula here.
What's her company called? Can we get
Pie Wackets. You know, a familiar is called a Pie Wacket. PYEWACKES. I think she has these.
Pie Wackets.
I didn't know that.
Pie Wackets, yes.
So Avalon Pleiades is saying, could you give us some more information about Merkaba travel, please?
Merkaba,
yeah. Well, you know, there's many different understandings of that, but you have an ascension vehicle in your body. Yeah, it's embedded within the code of the Sri Yantra. Has anybody seen the Sri Yantra or know what it looks like? It's the Om symbol. It has 9 triangles. 5 that are upright, inverted, and 4 that are upright, Shakti Shiva. It is the core code of the universe and how everything operates. It is the code that we build inside the brain in the new crystal skull method. We're building it in the brain. And you'll be fascinated to know that our brain is set up in pyramids. We have pyramidal cells in the medulla. It has a desiccated pyramid in it. All of the cerebral spinal fluid circulates like this, like an inverted pyramid as we breathe up. So that vehicle is through breath work, and you can look up a YouTube called the Microcosmic Orbit. You might enjoy that. It's kind of some Ayurvedic stuff about activating the currents of the spine. They're also in acupuncture as the governing vessel and the conception vessel of the body in acupuncture. So it's about how to, with breath, activate the light body. And what is the light body or energy body? It's your godhood. It's your divine body. It is the deepest body. We have 4 bodies. It's the energetic body, and that one's already outside of time and space.
Yeah. And Drumvalo, he talks a lot about that also.
Drumvalo has some great work. Flower of Life work was all based on that. We've used the Flower of Life in CSM. He received a channeled information. I don't know if it was channeled or given to him by the elders from the Mayan and the Hawaiian elders, the same as I was. I just recently found out, 3 years later, because one of my clients said, I've done a little bit of this with Drumvalo. And I was like, no, it's not possible. I'm channeling CSM, and of course, what a vain thing to say. It's being dropped at so many of us, right? At all times. And it's the 5 major beams of light in the brain. So you see Christ with the halo and the beams coming out. So we have a beam that runs right above the ears and runs out from there. We have a beam that runs from the 3rd eye back to what we call the light door, or where the superior colliculi are on our visual cortex. Yeah. And that is the 2 beams that go this way. We have a straight beam up from the crown, and this is all over what gland, everybody? The pineal gland. Yeah. And then we have 2. So imagine that being a pyramid, like the base of a pyramid. Those beams come out, and they are the doorway entrances into the Pyramid of Giza. Yeah. What else does it have? It has light shafts, right? The pyramid has 4 entrances, and then it has these light shafts. That is our fontanelle point right there. A big fontanelle, not the crown, but the baby fontanelle. It's called the dragon's eye. It's a very, very powerful point. And the other one is the occipital ridge, or the atlas, or what the grandparents call the kiss, because that's where the serpents meet.
Yeah.
When all of those beams of light are open, then we have moved finally from Homo sapien into Homo luminous. And we can maintain those beams on a regular basis, all part of the CSM training. It's really amazing because it's been, again, in images before our eyes, but we've forgotten how to do it. And decalcifying the pineal gland is a big part of that process. But you can't have this open without it connected. That beam from the crown has to go straight down to the heart. Otherwise, this is head opening, and you're dangerous because you don't have this gate fully opened. And you have to, in order to utilize this quantum ability to manifest anything. And we're coming to that. We all know that. It's like, oh my God, I said that, and it's happening. We're in a different frequency.
It's your CSM teaching.
Self-responsibility. It's all about self-responsibility to the light.
This is what you're teaching now.
Yes.
The CSM teaching.
It's after 20 years of serving them, we have four online programs that they channeled. The Heart of One with the grandmothers, the Language of One with Metatron, and then Soul Codes of the New Earth, which was just before CSM started, getting us back to our soul tone. So we know our code song and our codes that are our frequency programming. It's like the back of our website. We need to know those codes.
So we've got Nikki Nicolaides asking, what does CSM stand for? It's the Crystal Skull Method.
And I asked them, can't you give me something that's a little more mainstream? Like, you know, how many people are going to take that? And I was told no. So I was like, okay, we're doing that. So if I talk to other people, I do CSM only because I could then maybe say cranial skull method to the scientist type, but all of it lays into acupuncture, Ayurveda, and Tibetan healing, every single point. And I knew nothing about those things. I'm not trained in any of those. And I researched everything that they've given us and created a 300-page manual now to how to activate the points. We've just done level 1 and level 2. We don't have all 32 points yet. And they're on the skull, and then there are off-body points that correlate to all the major meridians of the body. And wonderfully that I had a 70-year acupuncture as one of my students. So that's why I can tell you all this now. She was like, I know that, you know, but we're not using them that way. So that, you know, yes, we touch that point and it does have a connection to that meridian, but we're working mostly in the brain stem, the pituitary, pineal, thalamus, and hypothalamus primarily. And we're re-enlightening them, basically. Once the light floods, and this is what's said about enlightenment, when the pineal lights up the crown, it floods forward. And the 1,000 petals open, which are the 1,000 nerve endings that are located there, literally. Yes. And that floods the pituitary gland, which is the master gland. That's the chamber of Isis, as it's known in esoteric teachings. And that releases all the life hormones, all the stem cells, and everything we want for longevity. So we use this method for expanded consciousness, health, and longevity. We got to be around long enough to wake up. You know? So,
does that help with reconnecting neural pathways, White Eagle?
That's what it is. We have unbelievable results with tinnitus, brain injuries, addiction, OCD, mental illnesses of every kind, chronic pain, and acute pain. Phenomenal results. Like I said, we have people's own statistics, not our own. We just ask them to fill out.
People can go to the website and look for that from your site.
That's under the shamanic training link. So we have 4 different training schools. That's our newest one, and the one I'm deeply diving into personally right now.
Great. It has been so beautiful talking to you, White Eagle.
Oh my God,
amazing information. And I love that you're taking things and making them your own. It's time to move forward in these new ways, you know, and create new ways of learning and opening up and expansion, as you said.
Yeah, and we have a wonderful foundation of our elders and our shamanic teachings across the world. And now we're asked to take it to the next level from where they had. And you know, I've been told many, many times in the channelings of CSM that this isn't new information.
No.
So Of course it's not. You know, it came from the stars, and we're all going back to where we came from, and we're all adepts. We wouldn't be here if we weren't. So you just have to remember. And you're magnificent. That's it. And if somebody says you're full of yourself, then you could say, so who else should I be full of?
Myself. Beautiful. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah.
Thank you. Bless you.
Thank you for joining us, White Eagle. We've had a lot of people asking, because you've mentioned the breath that you did, and people have obviously joined after you did the breath exercise. So if you go back to watch the replay, about probably 4 minutes in, White Eagle takes us through this beautiful prayer, and then she explains before the prayer about how to do the breath work. So for those people that are wondering,
a more extended version, we have a series under our online courses. It's called Take a Breath. That's the series. And there are 8 different ones for the chakras. And the lung breath is in there, which is a really good one for people that are dealing with some flu stuff or whatever. And that's, you know, transforming grief into loss. Grief into joy, because, you know, that's all we're doing. That's all we're here. That's all the game here on Earth is changing negative to positive. That's all there is to it. You know, like
we'll do that.
But the breath.
I've written down all these things. I'll put up a link in the top of this post so that people have got access to all of these things easily. And I just would love to remind everybody that the Time of the Sixth Sun movie is now available to rent. We are, you know, last year we did those online launches, which were, you know, 12 days, each 24 days in 2019, but 2.5 months to prep it, and 3 weeks afterwards to deal with it, and then 3 weeks afterwards to not get out of bed. So exactly what you said about your 20 things, simplify things. So now we are simplifying things. So the movie is just available to rent at $4.95. And we've had so many people, you know, sharing it with their friends. It's been beautiful, absolutely beautiful, because, you know, we don't run ads at the moment. So it's really lovely if you can share Time of the Sixth Sun movie with your friends. And if you haven't watched it yet, then please do.
It's such a beautiful, beautiful offering. And I'm going to say a commercial, because everyone out there, while you're in this, do not hold your money worrying about the future. You need to start funding projects like this, because this is what you want to create in the world. And $4.95, double it, triple it, do a monthly. Start making a link on you for a monthly donation. That's what we've asked our global community. It's $5. Help us to keep spreading this work. That's it. You know, we're just planting seeds. We're not converting anybody. We're not, no. We are creating a sacred space for your discovery. That's it. It's safety. Produce a safety crew.
I think also, you know, there's so much negative media going out there at the moment, and everyone's locked in at home, and however they want to view that. But it is a perfect time. It's a very beautiful, very positive and uplifting film, and great for the kids too. So it's either $4.95, which is to rent, because we realize that not everyone can afford a large amount, but for under $5, that's good value. And then we have our full digital package also for sale, which we've reduced for the moment because of what's going on. And the last thing I wanted to say also is on the 16th, which is this Thursday in the UK, we have Jeffrey Hoppy joining us for a Facebook Live.
Oh, beautiful.
And he is beautiful. And I'm really hoping, I talked to him yesterday, he's going to come on with Linda, who, you know, is really important in what he does. She holds the space and anchors it while he's channeling. And hopefully Adamus is going to speak through him as well. Anyway, if Adamus wants to come through, he'll come through. And he is amazing. Amazing. Very different energy to Tobias.
Beautiful. Yeah. So sacred. And, you know, I tell people, with all the negative things and positive things, you have a thing in your hand. Click. Turn it off. Like, turn it off. You know, and turn on what you want. It's exactly what we're doing.
Feed yourself.
That simple. Turn off what you don't want. Turn on what you do want to feed. And that was my last newsletter going out to our global community. What are you feeding on? This is a Native American understanding of stalking and tracking like an animal.
Yeah.
And who's stalking you? You know.
Yeah.
And so you have to figure out what your food is, and what you are letting other people are going to feed on you. And so what are they feeding on in you? Are they feeding on your drama, or are they feeding on your absolute inspiration of, yes, we can? It's not even about that anymore. It's just about, yes, we are. Yeah. Yes, we are. Of course we are. We're God in matter. Isn't that exciting? All of us. We get to just fully enjoy this absolute exquisite planet.
Absolutely.
Beautiful.
Thank you, White Eagle. Bless you. And you speak a lot about the divine feminine, so I think we'll get you on again later so we can really dedicate some time to that and really what it means to us moving forward.
Yes, to all of us, not just men or women, or it's not anything of we're replacing one thing for another. No, we're moving into an integration of something that has to come from the mother first.
Yeah,
it sits under our feet, and we are only, the grandma said, there's only one woman on the planet, Mother Earth. It's only one woman, and we all are herselves, male or female or whatever, So when we kind of come into the true meaning of the divine feminine, anchoring fully in the body of Earth, then we take this to another level.
Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for sharing with us. Thank you to every one of you watching wherever you are in the world that's joined us in our biggest broadcast ever yet. And as Nikki said, on Thursday,
keep
8 p.m. That's right. 8 p.m. on Thursday, Jeffrey Hoppy, who channels Tobias, who is the storyteller in our movie, will be joining us. I'll be putting a link up so that you can join us for that one as well. 8 p.m. that's UK BST on Thursday night.
Yeah, for everyone, he no longer travels Tobias because Tobias isn't coming through anymore. He's doing other things. I'll just leave Jeff to explain that. But he will bring through a Dharmas potentially. So
potentially
channels now.
We're moving as our vibration is moving. The next level beings are working with us, and that's just normal routine, because we're now ready for that step. And I'm glad to hear that, because I had the same thing happen before CSM, is a different level stepped in. And I was like, oh, my grandmothers that I'm familiar with, kind of thing. So it's all about that, entering the next vibrational space of our true resonance. Remember, we're not going out. We're just going in.
Beautiful. Thank you, Ted.
I think the closing word I'd like to give you, everyone, is this very powerful. So don't misuse this, and don't just say it randomly. All right. And I just honor the Hawaiian elders who shared this with us. Is the word kuana. 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 It's to be used very sweetly, but whenever you find yourself in a predicament, like I did, in the hospital bed, or just out walking, and you really want that guidance to show up for you.
Kuana.
You say kuana. Kuana means great divine, I need your assistance right now, because I'm trying to fulfill my mission and my purpose, and I need you to bring me all the resources for me to do that. It's not a command. It's not a demand. It's a communion. So what you're doing is you're acknowledging that the divine is who you are, not the personality that's struggling with the present moment drama. You want the driver to take over the bus. Everything else is the brake pedal, the four elements are, brake pedal, gas pedal, steering wheel, this kind of thing. But the driver is spirit. So when you call this word kuana, you're asking. So kina ole, the earlier word was get me in alignment, right place, right time, blah, 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 blah. Kuana being for every resource I need to fulfill my mission. Two very sacred words. Please use them with lots of honor when you do them, and just don't chit-chat. That's what I leave you with.
Blessings to you, and good night to every single one of you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Aloha.
Aloha.